Time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do, you do. From the Dixieline Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, heading towards a great sports weekend, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, the Venerable John Riley, with his opinions from left field, where it's 106 degrees outside in San Diego. This podcast brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers. 8 locations to serve you in San Diego. Thinking about projects the rest of the summer or into the fall, think Dixieline. They've got materials, they've got ideas, they can be your best friend and your consultant. And if you like tools, you're do-it-yourselfer, go to Dixieline.com to see all the things that they have to offer. John Riley, good afternoon. I've had enough of summer right now. I can't handle this heat, this humidity, and the fire threat, but we're handling that. But we did. We think, knock on wood, we think we've solved our audio microphone problems from doing this at 2 different remote locations. How you doing?
You sound marvelously. Great to hear this. Okay, this is going to be a good show.
I hope so. We're going to go a lot of different directions. Today will be featured baseball trading deadline preview. So if you're a baseball fan, because we're baseball centric and we know what we're talking about, get ready to join us. When we're done, because we do sports talk the way it should be done, topics and opinions, and then we let you take over, it's called Fans Forum. John, for the people on live stream who've never, ever participated, the first-timers, the Rookie of the Year candidates, how do they jump on board? How do they get involved in Fans Forum?
I already see one rookie here. Scott just joined in, said, thank you. Thank you for the enhanced audio. Do you love it? Says, we can hear you better, Lee. We're already getting some positive reviews. So if you have a comment or question in the world of sports, or you just want to talk about audio technical stuff, just drop your hot take in the live chat on YouTube X or on Facebook, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
Fans Forum coming up right at the end of the podcast. Also, I write about sports every day of the week on our website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Do you check it? Do you read it? Do you enjoy it? I want somebody to respond to that. You get the best 15 minutes in sports every day. You get one man's opinion columns every day. And we now offer you an opportunity to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group and get on our email list. John and I send out 2 newsletters every day, Monday through Friday, about the world of sports. It's absolutely free. So fill out the orange box on the homepage of my website. Join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You can help us grow this podcast a great deal. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the follow button. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple. It helps us a great deal. John, I'm ready. We're going to go a lot of different directions. Get ready for high, hard ones. We are talking baseball to get this thing started.
Yeah, we are. We got to talk about the Padres. And, man, they are stinking up the joint in Atlanta right now.
All right, let's just talk about where this franchise is right now. Awful game today in Atlanta. They lose 3 out of 4 to the Braves after losing 2 of 3 to lowly Kansas City. This 10-game save-the-season road trip has not started well. Now they go to Miami. They'll face a Marlins team that's dropped 9 in a row. But at the end of the day, this team is so far out in terms of being a true wild card team. I just don't know that they can wait any longer. And that's the headline. What are you waiting for? That's the message to be directed to A.J. Preller. Their record is 50-53. John, there are 7 teams in front of them in the wild card race, just the wild card race, who have more wins than the Padres do. So there's lots of ground to make up. Since mid-May, they are 20-35. How could you think this team could be a wild card playoff team with that type of number dating back to May? And playoff teams don't go on losing skids of 4, 5, 6, 8 games. Don't have this dry spell of lost 16 of their last 23. And if you look at Padre baseball right now, look at these marquee names and their batting averages. You'll spill coffee over the box score in your newspaper. Machado, 205. Xander, 214. Sheets, 217. Merrill, 224. Cronenworth, 206. Outside of Tatis, every guy earning big bucks has a really bad batting average. That's an issue. The other issue, you have Michael King, as gritty a starter as there is. You have Walker Buehler grinding through bad innings and still giving you as much as he can. And after that, you have nobody. Not a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh starter that the Padres can trust. The Padres' team ERA is 4.24. It's 20th. Team ERA. That includes this great bullpen. The Padres' starting rotation as of this hour, ERA 4.79. 4.79. They're 26th out of 30 in Major League Baseball. This team has so many problems right now. So it begs the question, what is that guy going to do? That guy, A.J. Preller. Can he make a deal immediately? I know the deadline's not till the 3rd of August, but if he can make the right transaction and get the right starting pitcher in, he might give you 2 to 3 quality extra starts. That could be a difference, and maybe it stabilizes things. Because right now, this team is just spinning its wheels, and I just don't think there's any hope. They tried. Those of you who followed us, followed Padre Baseball on this podcast, we talked with praise words when A.J. Preller went into the marketplace during the end of the winter and into spring training and bought those lottery ticket pitchers and then tried to buy some insurance policy pitchers. But outside of Walker Buehler, not one has panned out. Vasquez has regressed. Marquez can't be trusted. Canning obviously can't get people out without giving up home runs. Giolito's lost his velocity. He's going to come back, but I have no hope there. And you don't really think Waldron, Brito, Hart are going to be difference makers. So if AJ can pull the trigger on a transaction, do it now. Do it before the weekend and get the right guy. And we're going to talk about that shortly. But John, they've got so many problems. And I know Padre fan, John Riley Padre fan, speaks from his heart, wears it on his sleeve. End of the day, this does not look like a playoff team at all. This team looks horrific to me right now, both at home plate and aside from Michael King and Buehler and the bullpen on the mound. John, I said a lot. Your turn to respond.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, they need to sell. I mean, this is the year to sell because there's so many teams that think they're in it. And the Padres, man, they got a big old chunk of gold just trading Mason Miller. And people say it's like having a Ferrari in the garage that you don't use. And that's pretty close to accurate here. I think Mason Miller is more valuable now than when the Padres traded, Leo DeVries for him. So there's no reason that they can't get a big package for him. I mean, it's time to sell. But still, even with these games, I mean, like last night's game, the Padres, were within one, and then they executed the double steal with Xander and who was the other one? I think it was Bowen on the double steal and left first base open. And so then Walt Weiss just goes ahead and does the walk to Tatis and just gives him the intentional base. And then Rengifo ends up flying out. And you're like, what the hell? Why are you doing the double steal there? So there's just still a lot of decisions that they're just not right. So it makes you wonder, is it a rookie manager who's contributing this? But right now, and I mean, even though, the highly paid stars are starting to show life again, and that's positive. Yeah, Canning is just throwing, big meatballs that are getting launched out of the stadium. Vasquez, like you said, he's regressed. Like we thought he figured it out finally. He was looking great in spring training and most of April, and everything's gone to hell in a handbasket. Buehler, yeah, he's been nice, but, Giolito's not going to save the day. I mean, I don't even expect really Musgrove or Pivetta to come back. Some people think that Pivetta might be intentionally kept on the injured list through the end of August because that triggers some escape clauses in his contract for the Padres, which wouldn't surprise me right now. What a mess. I mean, the Padres need to sell. This is the year to sell.
All right, so you're saying fire sale. Not
a fire sale.
Well, but you want them to get rid of Mason Miller and get multiples of players back. But they're giving up on the season completely rather than trying to rescue what's still left in the season with maybe the right deal for a starting pitcher that might stabilize that slot in the rotation and make things better. Or you don't think they have anywhere near enough at bat or on the mound?
No, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you think you're going to trade for SKUBAL or some of these really top-end players? You don't have the assets to trade for that. So if your stars like Manny and Fernando and Xander and Jackson Merrill are not producing, this team is doomed. And they were not producing for most of the year. They've dug a deep hole. There's really only about 60 games left in the season. I mean, they would have to go on fire, win 2 out of 3 the rest of the way to even be entertaining the idea that they should really make an investment this season. I mean, let's just accept reality for what it is. This is the year to sell. And, does that mean some people are disappointed? Yeah, but sometimes you can tell when it's not your year, and this is that year.
Okay. That's topic 1. Did we hit a few hot buttons with our opinions? John wants them to sell across the board. I'd rather tinker and try to get somebody in here to stabilize it with an outside hope. Maybe they could gather this back in. But that's a huge if. So, fans forum chat box is open. People in San Diego who are Padre fan, other people who do podcast, those of you right on social media, jump into the conversation point here. Want to hear from you. Okay, that's topic 1 in baseball. We told you we're going to a lot of different directions. We're going to spray hits and opinions, lots of different places. Speaking of the baseball trading deadline and who's available, John, look at this board. Now, some of these guys are on teams that still think they have a chance in the wild card. But Tarek Skubal of Detroit is a walk free agent at the end of the year. But Detroit has gotten hot, and their batting order is hitting home runs. So the burning question in Detroit, ride with Skubal? The bigger question to me, how do the Tigers front office face their fans if they trade this guy? You give up on the run to the playoffs, and you give up on the cornerstone pitcher to go get other people. I don't know about that. Joe Ryan, very much affordable. Minnesota, soon to be a free agent, very competitive. Last I checked, I think his ERA was 2.68. Joe Ryan could be traded for a package. But there's so many teams out there looking for pitching. I don't know if the Padres could afford Ryan, and that would be a short-term rental because he is committed to go to free agency. Jose Soriano, would you dare talk to the Angels? Why not? They're not rivals. Yeah, they're just up the road, but they're not rivals. But do you have the right pieces? Because it would probably take 2 for 1 and have to be the right pieces to get Soriano out of Anaheim. That along with his teammate. I don't think the cost on Reed Detmers would be as high. He's not been as trustworthy as a starter or as consistent, but he's had a bounce-back season. So either one of those Angel pitchers might be accessible. The one that just surfaced is the guy that was a cornerstone in the World Series run the Blue Jays had last year, and Kevin Gausman. Still got gas left in the tank. He's got a no-trade clause, willing to waive the no-trade clause. That's worth investigating. Again, you're not going to get him without giving up something of significance. Toronto might be getting into rebuild mode. It's not the same Blue Jay team, and Gausman has kind of suffered the consequences. Became available this week. Fourth name, Kodai Senga. This guy has pitched well in chunks of time with the Mets. He's had some injury problems recently. The Mets are putting a lot of guys on the trade block. He could be a walk free agent too. I just don't know from a health standpoint whether this is vintage Senga that we've seen for a couple years when he first got to the Mets. Next one is Freddie Peralta. He was a cornerstone on a rock with the Milwaukee Brewers. He's at the back end of the Mets rotation, fairly high ERA, hasn't looked like the same pitcher at all. He's a walk free agent. You probably get him at a very cheap price, but what are you getting? The unique one is Luis Castillo up in Seattle. They are desperate for a relief pitcher. Ding, 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 ding. How about that? They're also looking for a right-handed bat. Ding, 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 ding. I think the Padres have that too. Castillo's pitched better since about a third of the way into the season. Still got gas left in the can. Pricey acquisition, though. Final year of the contract. Robbie Ray, San Francisco, part of this group the Giants are shopping. He'd be a back end of the rotation guy. I guess he'd give you quality starts. Physically, he's healthy. Would you trade within the division? Who cares? You're trying to save your season. And the final two are former Padres in Kansas City in a wretched situation. Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, both had good years here. Their careers were kind of resuscitated. You could probably get them for just prospects. I don't know that either one brings a big price, although they both got multi-year contracts with big dollars attached to the final couple of years there. So, John, outside of SKUBAL and maybe Joe Ryan, I don't think there's a hell of a lot of difference makers there. I do like Soriano, and I think Gausman would be a really good rental. What do you think? What's your take on what the Padres could do, should do, might try to do with those list of names?
Well, it's not just the Padres. Everyone's going to be looking at these pitchers. And I just remember when Gausman came up, I think he started in Baltimore, and then the Giants signed him. I hadn't really heard much about him, and he was really good for the San Francisco Giants. And so now he's gone to Toronto. He's like one of those good pitchers that you kind of forget about sometimes. So, Gausman is a guy, I agree with you. He's someone that I would have a strong interest in. We saw Lugo when the Padres played Kansas City, and if I recall, he looked pretty good. So those guys still have something left to prove. But, if Detroit trades SKUBAL, they're going to ask for, a Brinks truck, and they should. And so, he's going to go somewhere. I mean, the Dodgers, I know Dave Roberts isn't real happy with having Emmett Sheehan as his number 5, but he has that many other options. The Dodgers are going to be in on at least one of these guys.
So that's where we are. So we'll ask you and Fans Forum, which marquee name on that board do you think the Padres legitimately have a chance to go get, or should they go get? My vote is Soriano. My second vote would be Gausman. Third vote, maybe Reed Detmers. Okay, those are the ones that are available between now and August 3rd. Let's go to the next topic on the table that deals with the rumors that are nonstop and everywhere in baseball that the Yankees and the Padres are made to order to make a deal for Mason Miller. I was told the Padres have their scouts at Yankee Stadium and have their scouts at Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, looking at Yankee players, including Yankee prospects. And evidently, the names at the top of that Yankee list are the ones that are really headlining the Padres rumor mill. Young right-hander Carlos Lagrange. Now, he's been hurt at AAA, but this kid has been on a fast track to the major leagues. And that would be the kind of pitcher I think the Padres would look at if they have to move Mason Miller. Again, it's got to be a multiple-player deal. It might be a 3-for-1, maybe even a 4-for-1 deal. The next player is a young flame-throwing setup reliever, Fernando Cruz. Kid's got electric stuff. His future is obviously very much in front of him. Third name is a starting pitcher that's missed a chunk of the season recovering from surgery. Schmidt. I think a pretty good pitcher, but we don't know if Clark Schmidt right now can be what Clark Schmidt was when the Padres had interest in him prior, back during the Juan Soto trade conversations. Next one is Luis Gil. Now, he's at AAA. He was hurt. A year ago, he was one of the hot Rookie of the Year candidates, but he's had some shoulder issues. Again, health issue with him, much like there is with Clark Schmidt. And in terms of everyday players, Jason Dominguez. Now, he's not hit major league pitching with any consistency at all, but he's got power. But he does not play at AAA. He's just too good to be at that level, so that's a kid whose future is still in front of him. Another one is a young shortstop who could be a multi-position player. His name is George Lombard. He's been on a fast track to get to Yankee Stadium, but he's only hitting .243 at Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Still a really good prospect. And the fourth one is a setup reliever who's gotten better and better as the season's gone on. Brent Hedrick, left-hander. Guy just looks like a giant out there on the mound. So the Padres are looking at some of these guys who are at Yankee Stadium, the rest of them that are at AAA at Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. John, if they have to move Mason Miller, which of the names to you is the most important to you that has to come this way if there's a transaction with New York?
I've seen guys on Twitter, they're arguing about this. They can look at, some of these scores and their stats on, their future potential, right? But my angle here, first of all, is it seems to me that the Yankees farm system always seems to be highly valued, highly coveted. And a lot of those guys don't really pan out. I mean, none of these are going to be sure things. So, Dominguez, we've been hearing a lot about. Spencer Jones isn't on your list. Lombard is supposed to be a better prospect than both of them. We talked about Clark Schmidt that should have been in the deal for Juan Soto. So, in my opinion, if it's up to me, the Padres are going to need to get 3 quality players. Some say that we need to have 2 top 100 prospects for Mason Miller, because Mason Miller just isn't the best closer in the game, just isn't the best closer in Major League Baseball in decades, but he's got 3 more years of control. I mean, so he's going to be paid way less than a lot of your assets, which freezes up cash to maximize the potential of your roster. So this guy, in my opinion, is a huge piece. So hopefully AJ is thinking, okay, I know what he's worth in terms of Leo DeVries. I need to get back more than I got back in the Leo DeVries deal, because I think Mason Miller is valued more now than he was at the trade deadline last year. So let's see if he can pull it off. But if he can't get any kind of a quality deal, then I say you hang on to him and maybe you trade him in the offseason. And I'm not sure if Preller is going to be around to do it.
If I were King and I was forced to trade Mason Miller, I would take LaGrange because of potential. I would take CRUZ because of what we already see. And I would try to either get Dominguez or Lombard in a 3-for-1 transaction. Would you like that deal or not?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. I mean, it's going to be at least 2, probably 3 of these guys. But right now, I'm just thinking Lombard plays shortstop, and Xander is not the long-term answer there. They're going to need to address that. When I see a guy like Dominguez, I see he's got big guns, right? His big arms. But guys like that often, they turn into Dave Kingman types where they've got tremendous power, but their OPS isn't so great. But, it's hard not to like a guy with the last name of LaGrange. That's for sure. So let's see what they do. I mean, I trust in AJ. I do. I mean, I think AJ overall has made way more good deals than bad deals. I like his gambling, his swashbuckling, kind of approach here. And I want to see him go for it here. But this is a chance to cash in because so many teams need quality pitching right now. This is the year to sell.
I disagree. Do not trade Mason Miller. Do not trade Adrian Morejon. Swashbuckler, yes. But all that gambling has also saddled your team, John, with enormous debt load, long-term contracts. I mean, I'm not going to mention that shortstop Bogaerts has 7 years, $157 million left on his deal.
So he's going to sit on it for 7 years? I mean...
and I'm not going to mention Machado's got all those extra years and what they're on the hook for with Tatis. It's just, again, swashbuckler, yes. A lot of gambles have not paid off. That's where we are. Okay, you're a Padre fan. We've just given you the hot list of the guys that they're scouting at Yankee Stadium and at Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Which one of these guys group, got to get 3, appeals to you the most? That's all things Padres, all things baseball trade deadline. But we got to talk about another team that's suddenly being mentioned in trade talks. John, the Dodgers.
Yeah, the Dodgers, man, their farm system is loaded. I mean, look at these names.
The Dodgers are getting all types of phone calls on prospects. And John raised a really intriguing point about where the Dodgers are emotionally at this hour. Yes, they're in first place. Yes, they have won 41 of their last 61 games. But, John, where are they today? They're at the White House with Trump. But where are they today? They're starting to have concerns from within about what their pitching staff looks like August into September, and then when the second season, postseason begins. Yamamoto, red hot. Ohtani, is there concern now he becomes a 5-inning, once-a-week starter because of the knee situation that they have to monitor? Those are your frontline starters. Nobody seems confident that they could trust Blake Snell. He's had only one short rehab start, struck out 4 batters in 1 inning, but they're talking at least 5 more rehab starts with hopefully no setbacks before he can get to L.A. And at this point, nobody has any confidence that Glasnow is even going to pitch. So those are all big issues. So you got Yamamoto, limitations with Ohtani, and you got the left-hander who's been the stunning surprise in Wroblewski. Can they trust Sasaki? That becomes a huge question. And at this point, they're really losing confidence in Emmett Sheehan. Too many bad innings. And to complicate it, they got 5 pitchers on the DL down at Oklahoma City. Not one of their prospects, led by River Ryan, is pitching right now. So suddenly the Dodgers, John, are thinking, maybe we take phone calls and we look at people that are interested in our prospects. TIBBS, the outfielder at AAA, look at those numbers at Oklahoma City. Ryan Ward, super utility man, has always hit with power in the minor leagues. The South Korean, Hyseon Kim, is back at OKC. He's hitting .292. And then look at what's at AA in Tulsa. Every one of those guys is a budding star. Zaire Hope, Jesus DePaula, Mike Sirota, those are all 3 outfielders at Tulsa. Kevin George, first baseman, and a young catcher, Griff Powell, who's hitting for average and power. They got a lot of blue chips. So I take all that, and I call Detroit. And I say, I have interest in that left-hander. If you're interested, let's look at my blue chip list. We might give you 1 or 2 of these guys for this rental for this free agent. Either that, or I call the Angels and I talk to them about Soriano. Because at this point, I just don't think the Dodgers have a trustworthy starting rotation. And that's not to demean Wroblewski. It's not to say, gee, you can't give the ball to Eric Lauer. But at the end of the day, they got to me, way too many question marks, and they got so many guys in the system, they could make the right deal. And of course, Andrew Friedman historically has always made big deals at the deadline. John, what do you think?
Now, that's a prospect list. That looks a hell of a lot better than what the Yankees have. The Dodgers, they never miss a beat. You got to love that name, though. They call me Mr. TIBBS right there at the top. I was seeing some photos of him. I think that guy's a 2-way player. I think he pitches, too. Yeah. But yeah, those numbers are just fabulous. So can you imagine if Mason Miller was traded within the division? I mean, that could be win-win. Would you trade with the enemy?
You're talking Mason Miller to the Dodgers?
Yeah. I mean, what's going on with Edwin Diaz? Is he coming back? I don't know.
Well, he's had 3 perfect relief appearances. Yeah, he'll be back this weekend, I think, on the Dodger roster. But Mason Miller does not solve the Dodger problem. The Dodger problem is the starting rotation, the injuries, and guys who are fading. That's the Dodger problem, which means if Friedman makes a deal, he's going to make a deal for a starter. And I'm not sure they want to do anything.
Like one of these guys.
Exactly. Either SKUBAL or Ryan.
Yeah, I can see all any of those guys going to the Dodgers for sure.
Yeah, so that's where we are. You're a Dodger fan. How about that blue chip list? What do you think? What do you think the Dodgers should do? Because I think they now realize they can't trust some of these guys to come back health-wise, and some of the guys that they've been leaning on just have not gotten the job done with any consistency at all, and nobody seems to have a grasp as to where Sasaki is in terms of being a trustworthy postseason starting pitcher. Okay, that's all things baseball. John, we have
Sasaki looked pretty good with the Yankee game like about a week ago.
Yep, that's one start.
Us something.
That's one start. You're doing this podcast with your heart on your sleeve. One start, the prior 4 starts were terrible.
Okay, so, all right.
Lack of consistency here, pal. Okay. That's all things baseball. We have covered the biggest topics. Want you to jump on board. Fans Forum, open for business. If that's not enough on this podcast, do you know what time it is? Time to open NFL training camps. John, let's talk about what's going on around the National Football League. And this starts off the field. We have
lawsuits and stadiums.
Yeah, we have followed the Brian Flores, Minnesota Viking racial discrimination lawsuit against Roger Goodell and the NFL in depth. And the NFL has tried to go to court and force this out of the court into NFL arbitration. And the appeal court has said no. He has a right for this lawsuit, judge and jury. It's not going to Roger Goodell's arbitration. Get this angle. This thing is about to go to court. Brian Flores and his lawyers have issued subpoenas to 21 black assistant coaches who interviewed with NFL teams and never got jobs and felt snubbed. National Football League's got a big problem on its hands because now this is just more than just Brian Flores' lawsuit. This encompasses the Rooney Rule, African Americans who felt that they were used as token interviewees. This is a really nasty story, and this is going to spin into the fall. This thing is going to trial, and once you get subpoenaed, John, you go to court and you testify under oath. And you got 21 black assistant coaches who feel they took interviews and were not treated fairly. Wow. National Football League's got an issue. That's one story. The other story is Kansas City Chiefs. They just yesterday unveiled plans for a $3 billion Arrowhead Stadium with translucent panels for sunlight onto the field. Seats 70,000. They're about to pick the location across the state line. It's going to be in the state of Kansas, not in Missouri. And the Hunt family yesterday confirmed they themselves are paying $1 billion of the $3 billion cost that the city, the state of Kansas are going to pay. Fabulous story. Could you believe the Chiefs in a new Arrowhead within 3 years across the border in the state of Kansas? John, how much trouble is the NFL in with what Brian Flores and his lawyers are doing? And your quick comment on all things Arrowhead Stadium.
You know, Brian Flores has a beef. I mean, he's been the token guy in the interviews. That's been proven over and over again. So, but in general, I think the Rooney Rule, it was important at one point in time in history. I don't think it's important anymore. I think we need to move on and not judge by color of skin, but instead of content of character. So I think both things can be true at the same time. But hopefully the NFL will find a way to make some peace here. And, you know, Brian Flores and maybe some other coaches might be due, you know, some kind of compensation. We'll find out. But this Kansas City Stadium thing is wild for me. I mean, because number one, if Kansas City Chiefs played actually in Kansas, then your guy Trump would finally get his geography right. Remember, he used to think that the Chiefs played in Kansas. So now it would be true. But, you know, I just thinking about the World Cup and like how so many Europeans came here and they were just blown away by the quality of our stadiums and the air conditioning in the summer and how pleasant it was. And, you know, Kansas City, I mean, that is freaking cold in the winter and hot and humid in the summer. I mean, it's probably only has a couple of football games where the weather is going to be halfway decent. So, yeah, put a roof over that baby. And I think that'd be a big win for the people there. You know, I mean, they're going to still sell out. I mean, everyone loves the Chiefs out there, but I kind of like the idea of that clear roof. That sounds good.
Okay, so those are topics on the table. You think the Rooney Rule works? I'm asking those of you who want to express an opinion, Fans Forum chat box. But to me, this is stunning that 21 other assistant coaches who interviewed for jobs and felt they were treated as if it was just a check-the-box token interview, they've been subpoenaed and are going to testify in the Brian Flores lawsuit.
Good.
So we go from that. John, let's peek inside the NFL notebook because teams are pouring into camps, and boy, there are storylines everywhere.
quarterback questions.
Let's just start. Cleveland, new coach Todd Monken. Cleveland, old problem. No quarterback. This will be fascinating to see. Deshaun Watson against Shedeur Sanders. They're going to battle it out. But can Watson ever be the quarterback he used to be with the Houston Texans prior to all the injuries? And can Shedeur make a jump from just being a freelance quarterback, throwing picks, fumbling the ball, taking sacks? He did not dominate last year as a raw rookie in a bad situation. So that's story one in Cleveland, quarterback derby. Story two, I think this is a team that's right on the brink. I'm talking Atlanta Falcons. They don't have deficiencies, but they do have a decision to make at quarterback. Is it Tua Tagovailoa coming in from Miami? Or will it be Michael Penix, who's now had 3 surgeries for torn knee ligaments? But they bring in a veteran head coach from Cleveland, Kevin Stefanski, quarterback guru, and they are so skilled at running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive front, pass rush. I think Atlanta's right on the brink of being really good. Tua, I think, is going to be the starting quarterback. In Arizona, that's a bad situation. They have no quarterback. They do have Jacoby Brissett. He's in camp today. He's not going to practice. He wants his contract upgraded. He's making hardly any guaranteed money compared to the backup quarterback, Gardner Minshew, that's making 5 times the guaranteed money that Jacoby Brissett is. Brissett's got a right to screech about that, but Brissett was 1-11 as a starter in Arizona last year as the season fell apart, and they got the coach fired. So Arizona's got a quarterback issue. New York Jets, Geno Smith, coming home. Aaron Glenn, their coach. Desperate situation. He's on the hot seat. They need productivity at quarterback. They need to fix their defense. They got a lot of draft picks. They have 3 number 1s next season, but they need Geno Smith to be competitive. And there's really nobody behind him that's ever played in the National Football League. So how big a jump can the Jets make? Can Geno be the difference maker? In Miami, big story. Paid a chunk of money to get Malik Willis out of Green Bay. He'll be the starting quarterback in the post-Tua era, but they're going to be a bad team. They have no players. They have the most dead money against the cap of anybody in the National Football League, and Malik Willis is going to be asked to bail them out. Indianapolis, Daniel Jones. Can he physically hold up coming off the torn Achilles tendon? Big question there. Other question, they still have Anthony Richardson, AR-15, former number 1 draft pick, who just has not been able to stay on the field and stay healthy. Will he be a different quarterback under this coaching staff? Then there's the Raiders. Kirk Cousins will be the starter. Fernando Mendoza this afternoon just signed his 4-year contract extension. I guess the big question, I assume Cousins will be the opening day guy. How deep into the season do they go with Cousins? Do they turn to Mendoza somewhere to give him snaps? And although everybody's excited about, well, Cousins will make us more competitive, and we have the running back, and we have the tight end, and we have the head coach who came from Seattle with a great playbook, but have they solved their deficiency in the offensive front? Have they solved their wide receiver deficiency? And they rented a lot of free agents on defense. Last I checked, none of those guys are Pro Bowlers, so a lot of questions there with the Raiders. Minnesota, Kyler Murray versus J.J. McCarthy. That is going to dominate the conversation from the minute they're on the field and who gets the majority of the snaps and who plays well in preseason. Can Murray be what Murray has been in chunks of time when he was at Arizona? Can McCarthy take the next step rather than just be a mistake-prone, fire from the hip, throw it up for grabs type quarterback? And the last one is Pittsburgh. New coach Mike McCarthy. They got Aaron Rodgers one final time. Now, they have upgraded their wide receiver core. There's a lot of debate in Pittsburgh. Do we just run the season with Aaron Rodgers and hope our wide receiver core led by DK Metcalf and the newly acquired Michael Pittman make a big difference? Or do we need to start getting answers for the future? And is the future Drew Allar from Penn State, or is the future the ex-Ohio Stater Will Howard? That's a strange story. And this other sidebar question in Pittsburgh, as they go to Latrobe, the situation with the defense, that looks really old. Paying a lot of money to a bunch of guys led by T.J. Watt, whose productivity has not been all that good. So, John, there are so many fun stories to consider. That's just the tip of the iceberg of things that we're going to pay attention to as these camps have just started to open and then everybody pours into camp next week. Your thoughts?
Yeah, fun stories, but a lot of teams with very unexciting reputations. Every one of these logos here has been kind of, they haven't been at the top of their game in a long, long time. Let's talk about Atlanta for a minute. Michael Penix, I remember watching him when he played in Indiana, and he just got wiped out and blew out his knee. And it makes you wonder, is he an injury-prone quarterback? Do you believe in injury-prone, or is that just given the way the guy plays? Because the guy is, a two-dimensional run and throw kind of a guy. I don't know. I just kind of worry that as good as Penix is, he's never going to have a really long career. What do you think, Lee?
Well, I think that's a legitimate question. He's had 3 torn knee ligaments, 2 in one knee and the third one in the other knee. Has always come back. But I think that's also, John, you probably answered your own question without saying it. That's why they went and got Tua. That's why Stefanski wants a proven guy to compete with Michael Penix to see if Penix can come back. And if he can't come back, well, Tua's got a track record, and this is the final year of Tua's contract, so he's on a contract year headed for free agency. But, they are loaded. I mean, Kyle Pitts is a cross between a great tight end and a very dangerous big wide receiver. Drake London is an explosive wide receiver. Bijan Robinson is a heavy-duty run-and-catch running back. Mm-hmm. They've upgraded their offensive front. Their pass rush is pretty good. I mean, Atlanta is right there waiting for one of those guys to take the job, become productive. I think Atlanta could be the surprise team in the league.
Is Arthur Blank still the CEO over there? He's like the old founder of Home Depot, if I remember.
He is. Yes, he is.
Yeah, and I want to ask you here this. Remember the Super Bowl, Patriots, Falcons? Remember how that whole thing imploded? That has to be probably the biggest, turnaround in any kind of a championship game that I can recall ever. What do you think, Lee?
Well, you're talking about the Kyle Shanahan era? Yeah. So
yeah.
At the end of the day, Atlanta got way down. Atlanta has really built. They do think Stefanski, who was one of the first coaches who was hired when everybody got fired in January, Stefanski was hired pretty quickly. Stefanski's got a good track record. So I just think Atlanta is right there on the brink, ready to win. You want to talk about the Vikings? You want to talk about Pittsburgh? You do have an opinion on all things Raiders, do you not?
Well, yeah. And I mean, I like seeing the Raiders in this conversation because I think there is hope for this team. But I don't know. I want to talk about the Colts. I still think AR-15. The guy is just such a spectacular athlete. It's just weird that he hasn't figured it out yet. So I'm hoping that, they get some value out of that deal. I know the Colts took a calculated risk getting him. When did he come out of Florida, I think? Yeah. But it's a shame that we haven't really seen everything that he can live up to. Daniel Jones is like Mac Jones version 2.0. That's a very unexciting quarterback. He had a nice little revival, but I still don't trust that guy either.
And what are we doing about the Raiders? Cousins versus Mendoza. And what about the big picture? Yes, Kubiak brings the Seattle playbook, but there's so many questions about what the Raiders are offensively up front, what the Raiders are collectively at wide receiver, and the fact they rented all these guys. They spent a ton of money on defense, but not one of these guys is a Pro Bowler. I mean, it's not like Kubiak walking through the front door is going to save everything at the same time.
Well, I mean, the Raiders have been crap for so long. It's not like, this year magically they're going to have the perfect roster. But, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to be excited about. To your point, they've added a lot of pieces on defense. They still got those 2 great tight ends. You got the great running back there. And I think Mendoza is going to be really fun to watch and see how he turns out. Because, originally I thought he was just going to get smoked, when he went to the NFL. But I'm telling you, NFL coaches seem to have a lot of confidence in him. And he's definitely, being a good boy and, being at the top of the class in terms of wanting to be there to prepare. Has he signed his deal yet? Is he in camp? Is he fully participating?
He just signed this afternoon, 4 years,
Excellent.
$57 million guaranteed. And of course, they got an insurance policy in Cousins. I mean,
Nice.
Cousins can make them really competitive. Now, whether they're talented enough to be more than a 500 team, but a 500 team is a hell of a lot better than they've been in the past. But I'll be intrigued to see how they use Mendoza. If I were King, Cousins plays the first half of every preseason game. Mendoza plays the second half just to get snaps.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, Cousins is my starter opening day, and then we see if all the other components around Kubiak's roster pan out. Okay, those are some of the hot topics around the National Football League, and we're going to jump in and we're going to cover NFL football now every Monday and every Thursday on a regular basis because we know the NFL. We are at halftime. Podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers with 8 locations to serve you in San Diego. John, you know how bloody hot it is outside? Yes, it is. It's 106 degrees outside, heat index in San Diego. But Dixie Line is about not just lumber, but Dixie Line is about doors and windows. And John, your house, my house, doors and windows from Dixie Line have made a huge difference.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, replacement doors, replacement windows. Yeah, you could save a lot of money on your gas and electric bill, and just makes your home a lot quieter and peaceful. And it's just nice to, when you want to open up a window, you don't have to fight with it to get it open. But you know what? I popped up this video here of all the lumber the Dixie Line provides. And we're talking about the summertime, and so it's so darn hot outside. A lot of homes have these really nice patio covers. Have you ever seen those, Lee, where, whether they're solid or maybe they're just like slats of wood that are attached, to really create a lot of shade around the perimeter of a house. Dixie Line's got all the goods for that, or even if you want to set up a pergola, like off in the back side of your backyard, that's a wooden structure that's going to give you some shade, some relief from the sun. The Dixie Line folks can help you get it all tricked out. And they've got all the great, outdoor barbecues and all the great outdoor living furniture and accessories so that you could just live like a pro in your backyard. So Dixie Line Lumber, the solution for homeowners, contractors, and professionals in the trade. Build it, fix it, enjoy it.
Dixie Line, more than a lumber company. Go to dixieline.com to see all the things they have to offer. We are at halftime, our podcast on a Thursday. Just a reminder, when we're done with topics on the table, you get the invitation, the mandate, the order to join us in Fans Forum. John, for everybody that's new on live stream who's never participated, they can jump on board. How do they do it?
Yeah, just pile in, get on board on the live chat, Facebook, YouTube, or on X. I see people on all 3 platforms, which is really cool. So let's see some new names and faces. If you have a question or comment for Hacksaw, drop your hot take in the live chat right below the screen.
Okay, don't forget, I write about sports every day of the week. I even convinced John that this is worth looking at every day. It's on my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. I write best 15 minutes in sports. You love sports. This is a must-read every morning. My one man's opinion column, agree or disagree, does not matter. Read what I write. Think you'll think about things with my one man's opinion column. And of course, you can subscribe when you join Hacksaw's Insiders group. And there's an orange box right on the homepage of my website. You fill that out, you get newsletters. John and I mail out 2 different newsletters every day covering the world of sports. So check my website, become a regular. And those of us who take part in Fans Forum, have you checked it? Do you like it? Tell us what you think. But it's absolutely free. In addition, I want you on social media. I want you to join my team, become part of my Twitter All-Star team. Just type in my name on social media on X, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Hit the follow button. That way you can participate in Hacksaw's mini polls, because I do ask some pointed questions in those mini polls. I want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Subscribe. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you get the alerts every time we put up additional commentaries and additional videos on the YouTube channel. We're in the air everywhere with social media. Okay, John, I'm ready. Let's go to the second half because there's other topics that we want to get to.
Well, I just want to say this. You could keep a whole social media team busy for like a week. Seriously, people in the world of social media and influencers and content creators, they often wonder, what should I talk about? You have no shortage of things to talk about. You're writing things, you're doing podcasts, you got one man's opinion. I mean, seriously, I scramble just to keep up with you. And I don't get to a lot of things, but it's unbelievable the volume of sports data that you're like a fire hose, man.
Yeah. And if we're not doing enough, don't forget, I do Saturday sports on KUSI TV. Now, you got to get up early. But they give me 2 blocks to do my Saturday morning sports at 6 a.m. It's usually at 6:15 or at 6:30, so make an appointment to watch Hacksaw on TV also on KUSI. Okay, John, I'm ready. Let's talk basketball.
Yeah, this Caitlin Clark is going up to all the big boys. Adam Silver weighing in.
An awful lot of conversation. The NBA, the WNBA, the mistreatment of the superstar Caitlin Clark, the fouls. The big story this week, it's now been reported that the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, who has a lot of input in the operation of the WNBA and was responsible for the hiring of their commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, he met with Kathy Engelbert and in essence, he told her that she had to take control of this league and stop all the problems that were existing. Terrible officiating, the hard fouls, the personal fouls, the vendetta fouls against Caitlin Clark. And now the union and the Players Association has stepped in demanding a meeting with Kathy Engelbert about what's going on as it relates to players getting attacked in social media. So Adam Silver, who carries influence in the growth and development of the WNBA and some of the people that are the decision makers, has really done an intervention saying you need to fix this and solve this situation. And the social media sexual, racial harassment of the players in the WNBA has gotten totally out of hand. And by the way, Caitlin Clark, who's had 6 injuries because of hard fouls in 2 years, goes out the other night, John, and scores 45 and has 10 assists for the Indiana Fever. So they got an NBA, WNBA leadership problem, I think, more than anything else. And now it's been stained by social media, too. Thoughts? Turn your mic on.
Here we go. Okay, now I'm the one with the audio problems. Okay, so there's multiple things that are going on here. I mean, there's obviously the conflict amongst the women, on the court, and we'd hate to see that. You see, a lot of people going after the golden goose here, with who is Caitlin Clark. But I wonder, we see this in the NBA and really in sports in general with gambling in sports. And when a player, doesn't hit that game-winning shot or doesn't score at least the over-under on the points, they start getting hate, whether it's in social media or people get a hold of their text numbers and they start pinging them with texts, really angry texts, threatening texts. Now, I don't see how Adam Silver or Kathy Engelbert's going to solve that problem. They're not going to be able to keeping the fans from harassing these players. I mean, to me, that kind of goes with the territory to a degree, but they're going to have to do something in terms of dropping the hammer on players that are just literally just abusing Caitlin Clark, that are like literally kicking her when she's down. I mean, it's nonsense.
I agree. It's unprofessional. And I think the quality of the officiating has to be called into question too. Kathy Engelbert is under a lot of heat from a lot of different directions. And now Adam Silver, whom she answers to a degree, has come front and center and said, you need to fix this, you need to solve this. What they need to do is hard fouls, technical fouls, immediate injections, and suspensions. They can put out the fire. And I hate to say it's black-white, but that Caucasian superstar has taken a lot of abuse at the hands of the African-American players in the WNBA. So it does seemingly have racial overtones. But this has to start from the officiating. And the officiating, to me, in the league, I think is very erratic, very substandard. And then it has to go through the league office. You're going to commit violent action on the floor against Caitlin Clark or against anybody else, you're going to pay a price. And a price will be significant suspensions. So
yeah,
they got their hands full. Okay, we go from that. Let's talk Laker basketball. A little bit of a report card here as we march through the summer. John?
Yeah, look at this. They got an off-season report card, Lee? You going to give them a letter grade?
Well, let's just talk about where the Lakers are right now. Obviously, the storyline is LeBron James exiting in free agency. He's yet to make his announcement where they're going. Did the Lakers open the door and say, we're not bringing you back? Or did he jump ship? Did he jump ship too early? You know, as the clock ticks, his agent can say, well, LeBron's taking his time. But the agent has to understand everybody's spending all their free agent money. Where's he going to go and at what price? So that's a big issue. Then the Lakers, once LeBron made the announcement he was exiting, they jumped into the marketplace. They made the trade for Walker Kessler, the big starting center from Utah, who I still think's got really good upside. They went into the marketplace and they got a three-point shooter from Philadelphia. This guy's got some dynamics to him in Quentin Grimes. They went and got a Chicago Bull three-point shooter, Colin Sexton, who first broke in with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's more of an offensive guy than he is anything else. They got a 6'9" shooting forward, Sandro Mamukelashvili from Toronto, but he doesn't play much defense, but he can stroke the ball at 6'9". And then this week, they got two guys who play defense. Matisse Thybulle, defensive forward, 6'7" guy out of Portland. Zaire Williams, 6'7" defensive type forward from New Orleans. And, of course, they drafted Cam Carr, who played really well in the LA Summer League, really consistently. That's a good guard. He might be the first guard off the bench. And then they got two players that were in their G League team this past season, went to the Summer League and just stood out. Arthur Kaluma, who's a 6'7" shooting forward, and Adon Thiera, another 6'7" forward, who had some high-scoring games. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a very different team. John, they have 9 new additions to this Laker roster. Now, 7 guys are gone. LeBron's gone. Rui Hachimura, who I liked, went across the street to the Clippers. Marcus Smart is gone to San Antonio. DeAndre Ayton was traded to Washington. Jackson Hayes jumped. He wound up going to Utah. Luke Kennard wound up with the Suns. Maxi Kleber, who hardly played at all because of injuries, has just signed to go to Europe. So I'll ask you this. Look at the big names at the top of the board. Those guys joined Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. Those big names at the top. Compare them to the 7 names who left. John, the question of the day, and the question for the fans on this podcast who follow the NBA might be Laker fans. Question of the day, are the Lakers a better roster at this hour than they were last season? What do you think? Go ahead.
Well, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I mean, this Laker roster, the way it's been constructed the last few years, is not good enough. So they had to shake it up. So I'm happy that LeBron's gone. We'll find out where he lands. But by the way, look at that picture of Walker Kessler. He looks like the actor Neil Patrick Harris.
Yep.
You know, from the TV show How I Met Your Mother. And I think Arthur Kaluma, isn't that Adam Seiko's brother? I think Kaluma played at Creighton, and of course, Adam Seiko was a San Diego State Aztec. The Carr kid, you know, I didn't know much about him, but I'll tell you what, he's been lighting it up in, you know, the summer league. I think there's a lot to like there. But to these other dudes, you know, I don't know much about them. If you, like you say, they may be defensive specialists, we'll see. But, you know, Ayton, we knew he was, you know, not a real serious player. You know, he didn't really have the right mental makeup. So it's good that he's gone. Hachimura was always kind of hot and cold. Smart, you know, a veteran, he was worthy of hanging on to. And it seems like Jackson Hayes and Walker Kessler are just sort of playing musical chairs. You know, they're just flipping, you know, and one goes to Utah, one goes to the LA Lakers. So I think this is worth the shot here. I mean, I think you just can't keep doing the same thing and expecting something to change. The Lakers are destined to be like in the middle, and in the middle isn't going to get it done.
Okay. I want to see what somebody else to say. We got fans everywhere in Southern California. Jump on board. Lakers invitation to you with a comment on Fans Forum in the chat box. Last topic on the table. Got a lot of soccer to talk about here, John, as, what do we say, off the sports wire?
It's the high-speed sports wire. It's ticking. You can hear it in the back room. It's going, the high-speed ticker.
Okay, let's just talk first of all what happened in television. ESPN, as you know, they bought the NFL Network. They did this big deal. They blew out 10 sports anchors and sports reporters. They blew out 23 production people. You know, amongst those who got let go, very popular baseball announcer Carl Ravitch. They let go former NFL players Cam Newton, Ryan Clark, Bart Scott. They let go NFL analyst, pretty good reputation, Charles Davis, and an NFL insider, Tom Peluso. Pretty nasty the way these terminations were handled. Now, there's a sidebar angle to all this. There's a general undercurrent of feeling that they're going to sign Pat McAfee to a monster contract that supersedes the monster contract they gave Stephen A. Smith. And what they did is they got rid of 33 hardworking employees that seemed to be dedicated to the ESPN brand so they could give more money to McAfee and SAS. And that's offended a lot of people in the media. Dan Patrick this morning went public on his broadcast, his podcast, and he said ESPN needs to show better dignity to dedicated employees who they just showed the door to. Wow. So that's a big story with ESPN. Fox TV, the aftermath of the World Cup. John, on Championship Sunday, 66.4 million fans globally watched the telecast on Fox and Telemundo. 66.4, highest rating ever. Fox here in the U.S., 42.5 million for the Spain-Argentina game. Telemundo, almost 24 million. That was pretty impressive. FIFA has begun a probe as to what happened after the final whistle when Spain beat Argentina. A lot of questions about Argentina's act, the dark act. A lot of questions about 4 incidents of fights on the field where Spanish players were attacked by Argentinians after the match was over. And of course, this is an Argentina team that had 25 fouls, 4 yellow cards, 2 red cards along the way. Be interested to see what FIFA does in terms of disciplining for all the thuggery that occurred. I thought Argentina was just ungracious. I thought it was a disgrace. I thought it stained their championship reputation by all the things they did. And I thought the officiating let an awful lot of bad stuff happen during the course of that match. So that's where FIFA is vis-a-vis Argentina. Team USA wants a decision by Friday. We don't know what Mauricio Pochettino is going to decide. He has kind of closed up circles, not talking to anybody about whether he's going to go back to Europe and try to find one of the open jobs or whether he's willing to commit to another 4 years to coach the U.S. World Cup team. But boy, there are deals other places. Right next to the Team USA logo, that's the Italian flag. They are negotiating with Pep Guardiola. He's the former head coach in the English Premier League about taking over the Italian team. The Italians fall from grace, did not even qualify for the World Cup. Germany, press conference tomorrow. They will name legendary European coach Jurgen Klopp as their new head coach. France is about to anoint legendary World Cup player Zinedine Zidane as their new coach, replacing the retiring Didier Deschamps. Meanwhile, MLS soccer returns after the World Cup, and I thought that there would be tremendous movement of fans going from World Cup watching to MLS. Did not happen. The first MLS TV broadcast, a doubleheader on their network, only drew 504,000 and 587,000 fans in their first two matches after the World Cup's record-setting performances. So the burning question, what kind of work is the MLS going to do to capture all the momentum that the World Cup brought to soccer here in America? Or is it going to just disappear because MLS quality is not equal to what World Cup soccer on TV was? John, I know that's a lot. Start with the ESPN, go to the TV ratings, and then work your way from there.
Wow, yeah, a lot going on here in the Sports Wire. Now, first of all, you often do this where you will, complain when one of the media guys gets paid more money or one of the media companies lays off staff. And I get it as an old school journalist, that's going to be your point of view. But, the world of sports media is radically different than it was in the early 80s when ESPN was first created, with Chris Berman and everyone else back in the day. I mean, there is, how many sports networks are there right now? And they all have talk shows. They all have news programs. There are highlights on cable. There are highlights throughout social media. And so in the end, this is a battle for ratings. ESPN is definitely not what it once was, but right now ESPN has got a hell of a lot more competition than it did, because back in the early 80s, they were the only game in town for an all sports situation. That's what made Extra 690 so wonderful. It was the only game in town here for a while in terms of sports news. But now with the internet and podcasting, and you even see a lot of podcast format, talk show format, even on Fox Sports and FS1 and ESPN and the Deuce and Ocho and everything else, there's just a lot more to go around. So when they're giving guys like Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee big money, I'm like, hell yeah. They're the ones that are bringing in the ratings, so they've got to, cater to what the audience wants. And the audience has proven that they love Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee, and they like guys, loudmouths with big opinions like you, Hacksaw. And so that's what drives a lot of what's going on here in the world of sports. So I don't have any problem at all, ESPN, doing this. And hopefully there's some new guys that rise up and we get some new faces here. But, ESPN to me in the beginning was like legit quality sports journalism. Now it's a lot of talking heads and, a lot of, crap talking and stuff, but that's what sports journalism has turned into. So I'm not as worried about as you are. But as far as everything else goes, great on the ratings. I do think MLS is going to get a bump, not a huge bump. I mean, they're not going to get the kind of viewership that the World Cup final had, but they're going to do better. But I think a lot of fans were noticing the quality in play is a huge drop off, and it makes sense. I mean, we were watching the best of the best in the World Cup, so hopefully people are now open to embracing soccer. I've been watching a lot of San Diego FC, admittedly not as much this year as I did previous, but it's nice to have another sport to follow along, especially when you have a local team. So I think it's great. And Coach Pep was hella good at Man City. And so for him to land in Italy, that makes a lot of sense. I could see that. And yeah, Team USA, if it's not Poach, I know you had some other names up there, as potential guys to take over. But I mean, you got to have a coach in place right now to build that 4-year plan, don't you, Lee?
Yeah, exactly. And they'll move quickly if indeed Pochettino decides not to return to Team USA. But the players have gone public and just said to a man across the board, they want him back. So that's going to be fascinating to see where that goes. And you took exception to a column I wrote this week on One Man's Opinion on the website. You did not like my use of the word Argentina equals loser equals cheat. You don't think Argentina was dirty and downright illegal, and what they did at the end of that match with Spain, that was warranted? Come on, John.
No, there's a difference here between cheating and playing hard. Okay, like in the NFL, you've got dudes that are playing hard. Maybe they're going to get some, roughing the quarterback kind of a call, and there's a penalty thrown, but that doesn't mean they're cheating. Okay. And in the case of the World Cup final, I would talked about it last time, where we saw these players, they put it all on the line, which you love to see as a sports fan, that these kids, these young men are all in. And yeah, their tempers were hot. This was an emotional game. It didn't work out for Argentina. And clearly they stepped over the line and they caused some trouble, fights and everything else. But that's not cheating. I mean, cheating is like, point shaving. Cheating is like spying and stealing the signs. Well, actually in baseball, that's part of the game. But in terms of like the Deflategate and all the kind of the funny business that people like Belichick were doing, I mean, that's kind of cheating. But what Argentina did was wrong. It was unsportsmanlike, and they should have a finger wagged in their face, but I wouldn't call them cheaters, even though you did.
I did. Somebody read my column. Did you read my soccer column I wrote this week? You got to read the One Man's Opinion column every day, because I do hit a few hot points. So just so everybody understands, John is of the opinion the dark act of Argentina is okay. John, do you think you're going to like living in Buenos Aires by yourself?
You are a son of a biatch, the way you like to pull these straw man arguments. So you're saying blah, blah, blah. Yeah, screw you, Hacksaw.
Thank you very much. Hey, we think we do pretty good sports talk the way it should be done. Now it's your turn to take over this podcast. Agree with me? Agree with him who's about to move to Buenos Aires? Feel free, jump on board. Fans Forum chat box is open. The podcast is brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers. 8 locations to serve you in San Diego. Build it, fix it, guarantee you will enjoy it. Go to dixieline.com to see all the things they have to offer. John, I'm ready for people with opinions, because I bet there's a few people out there got a lot to say. Go ahead.
All right, let's kick it off with Do You Love It? I say it again, they better not trade Mason Miller. Send one of our catchers along with Hart and Canning and Vasquez to anyone, just to get them out of here.
Well, I don't want to see them trade Miller. I don't want to see them trade Morion. They do have 3 catchers, maybe 4. I'm not sure they should trade Ethan Salas. But if you can get a right starting pitcher to stabilize this thing going forward, then maybe you make a transaction, and maybe you move Campusano, or maybe in worst case scenario, you trade Ethan Salas down to AA. Having a really good season in San Antonio. This can't go on. But there's no value to Hart. There's no value to Canning or Vasquez unless they're just a throw-in. But AJ has to be active. AJ has to be active right now, because you make a deal right now, John. You're going to get 2 to 3 extra starts from whatever that pitcher is that you get. So they need as many quality starts from anybody that they can get going forward. So, do you love it? I wouldn't trade Miller and I wouldn't trade Morion, but John's of the opinion they have to.
Morion is like such an obvious trade candidate because he's going to be a free agent in the offseason. I mean, let's just admit reality. The Padres are not going to have a World Series championship this year, okay? They might get on a little hot streak and get into the playoffs, but they're going to get eliminated in the wild card rounds and the play-in games. There's no way this team is going to be able to compete with, Philadelphia and Milwaukee and the Dodgers. This is just not the year. I mean, you got Musgrove and Pivetta that are hurt. I mean, you've got so many problems here. The batters have been terrible for the first half of the season. You still have guys starting that have batting averages below 200, and there were 2 of them in the lineup. It was either last night or today. And one of them is usually Freddie Fermin, and who's the other one that's usually below 100? At least Cronenworth got above 100. Oh, it's usually Bowen. He's below 200. So there's no way this roster is going to do it. So the answer is sell. Especially if Mason Miller is worth this value, get more. If you can't get higher value, then don't trade. But if you can, make the deal and keep parlaying and building up your capital, building up your asset base, just like a stockbroker. That's what AJ needs to do. And I think he can get more value for Mason Miller now than he had to give up last year in Leo DeVries. I really think it's possible.
Okay, let's see what somebody else has to say. That's why we broke this down, why we gave you the hot players in the Yankees organization and the ones in New York that they are scouting all this past week going into next week. John, next topic.
Okay, let's go to Callan. Hey, afternoon, gents. Saw 60 days off. Same old San Diego FC losing at the death in Colorado. Adrian Garcia Marquez and Darren Smith keep teasing a new designated player signing is coming soon. But who, though?
Well, the international window is open for another couple of weeks. They have the ability to make a deal. They still have a responsibility to find somebody to take Chucky Lozano's salary so they can do more business. But there's at least one goal-scoring acquisition coming. I assume it's going to be somebody from Europe, might be somebody from Denmark, where they've done very well. But offense continues to be a problem. I mean, they got shut out last night in Colorado, 1-0. You know, let the goal in the 95th minute, which was a heartbreaker. But there's such a hole. But they got half a season to try to fix this and rally this, and the international window is still open. So we'll just wait and see. I check my email all the time for the next press release about a player acquisition.
Well, it's hard to be a winning program when your best player is not invited to be on the roster. Which is so weird. I mean, now I want to ask you this, Lee, and all of your history in sports talk, did you ever work with Darren Smith?
Yeah, at Mighty 1090. Mm-hmm. And, Darren did one of the afternoon shows with Marty Caswell, and we were all part of that group. Darren, it was really odd. Darren was at ESPN Radio for a while. I think he was doing sports updates, and he might have done some weekend stuff, and he showed up here in San Diego. He's got a very different style. He's done very well. And like all the rest of us, corporate calls, please come upstairs. Here's the brown envelope. Sign it. Turn in your key fob. You're gone. And Darren got caught up in the last wave of cuts at 760. And, of course, prior to that, he had been at 1090 before they went out of business. So he was like all the rest of us. I'm surprised that Darren has not gone somewhere else to do it, but he likes what he's doing, and maybe he just does not want to work anymore within the sports talk industry. He's obviously doing some color analyst work for STFC on their broadcast.
Oh, I saw him on TV. I mean, he was, I don't know, it was Fox 5 or one of the local stations, and he was hosting some of the watch parties that were like down at Pacific Beach. I like Darren Smith, and I always thought that his presentation was unique compared to a lot of the other sports talk guys that have been here in San Diego over the decades. He always struck me as a really smart guy that had really good insight, kind of a different opinion than a lot of others, not a lot of shtick, but he had his interests. I remember he used to always talk about, I think it was St. John's where he went to school, and he's always been a soccer guy. But I like seeing him, having some success locally. And Marty Caswell, I'll just give her credit. I think she does a wonderful job getting a lot of great content from the Padres, especially in the clubhouse. And so I like how she's a respected member of the working media, just being a conduit so we can see what's happening behind the curtain.
I agree. Darren has a very different style. There's a very level-headed approach and content to what he does. He's very different. Marty's great. Marty works really at it. She grinds at it. I told her she should be on local TV as an outside reporter or one of the sports anchors. And she's never followed through on that, but I think somebody's missing the boat just because, she's really baseball driven. She does nothing else at all. And I think she's done a good job with what she has, but I think there's a bigger horizon out there for her to go to actually be a sports anchor. I think she'd be very good at it and being a Padre reporter for one of the local TV stations. But you got to have management that wants to invest to do that, and that has not happened.
Take my career advice, damn it.
Bloody well right, damn it.
Okay, Marty's great. Okay, let's go to Philip Begg. Greetings, gents. Do you think that the magic of the Padres pitching coach has lost its luster?
No, I think Ruben Abel is doing everything he humanly can do with a pitching staff that's got an awful lot of guys coming off injuries. I tried to think today, who has the worst pitching staff in baseball? And right now it's probably Kansas City and Colorado. They're just really deplorable. But, as I went back and I did some digging on statistics, I mean, the Padres starting rotation is 26th in baseball with a 4.79 ERA. That's terrible. And they have nothing left at AAA. And the fact that, they got so many of these pitchers that are coming off arm problems that they've bought lottery tickets on. And outside of Walker Buehler, who has a bunch of good innings, but then some bad innings too, outside of Buehler, none of the others have become really trustworthy whatsoever. So it's just not a good situation. And they have nothing at AAA in terms of being ready to pitch, and very little at AA San Antonio. So they're going to have to spend the offseason with new ownership figuring a way to go get more arms in here.
Yeah, Ruben Niebla, the fog, he's not the problem, Lee. I mean, look at the way he's revived the careers of a lot of pitchers. Now, garbage in, garbage out, you got to have a quality, athleticism. You have to be a pitcher that has potential, and he's done that, but he's not to be blamed for the injuries to Joe Musgrove and to Pivetta and to Yu Darvish and to Estrada and to Hoeing and who else am I missing? Jason Adam. That's not the fault of Ruben Niebla that those guys are hurt. So, you can kind of revive a career of a Walker Buehler, and I think Ruben Niebla had a lot to do with it. But you can only do that so many times. I mean, are you going to really save the career of Lucas Giolito, or is he literally, he's had a great career, but he's kind of near the finish line of his career? No amount of what Ruben Niebla is going to do is going to change that. I think Ruben Niebla has given Matt Waldron just about every opportunity in the world to prove himself, and he's helped him develop a lot of pitches beyond the knuckleball. But we saw in the game, I think it was it yesterday or was it today, where he pitched and he was getting lit up. So at a certain point, you could only do so much with the talent you're given. So I don't think Niebla's a problem.
Concur with you wholeheartedly. Big off season. How are they going to fix this pitching staff? Because what they have now is a reason they're on the outside looking in. Okay, we move on.
We move on, go to Bat Fan. Hey, injuries to the starting pitching has derailed this season, not to mention the slow starts of the top stars. Despite all that, they were in first not too long ago. Injuries to our top set of guys have weakened the bullpen.
Well, overuse of the bullpen has got something to do with it, too. And you have to understand that. You can only go to Morion. You can only go to Mason Miller so many times. The setup guys have just been asked to throw so many innings. I think going into this Atlanta series, John, I think the Padre bullpen had thrown more innings and faced more hitters than anybody in Major League Baseball. So that's where we are. Would it have been a very different season if Pivetta had not gotten hurt? Probably, because then you would have had King, you would have had a healthy Pivetta, and then you would have had Buehler as your top three. Vasquez pitched pretty well early, but has just regressed to the point he's getting lit up now. And then obviously desperation. Well, who's on the street corner? Canning. Who's on the street corner? Giolito. So you bring these guys in, you give them the ball, and those guys have had more bad outings than have had good outings. So it's just a bad combination. And I wish I could be confident that there is a Musgrove coming. But those guys, John Pivetta and Musgrove, are going to throw to batters on Friday, I'm led to believe, down in Miami. And then, if there's no setback, there's still 3 to 4 starts in the minor leagues and rehabs away from being able to get here. And who's to say there's not going to be another setback? And Pivetta seems to be a little bit ahead of the curve. And Musgrove is really, he's the great unknown because he's dealing with a stress fracture of the bone in the elbow. And he's tried everything humanly possible to treat it, handle it, and change what he's doing so he doesn't have another setback. But we just don't know. So they have nowhere near enough pitching to be a playoff team. So they're going to have to spend this whole winter figuring this out in terms of where they're going to go get arms, how they're going to go get arms.
It's a San Diego sports curse, Lee. We can't have nice things here. It's just one thing after another, isn't it? I mean, you think about like the history of sports here with the Clippers and the Chargers and the Padres and the Aztecs and the COVID season of 2020. I mean, I can make a list a mile long of crazy crap that has happened in the world of San Diego sports. And, going into this year, I thought this Padre team was they weren't going to top the Dodgers in the NL West, but I thought that they were a legitimate playoff team. But not so this year. It ain't working. This is not the year.
Not competitive. Well, hey, listen. At least I'm here. I stayed here. I did not walk out of here, become a free agent, and go somewhere else. I stayed here. So that's one thing.
Okay, at least we have Hacksaw. Okay, here's a couple of quick ones here. First from Alfonso, he goes, Hacksaw keeps it real, and then Something Wen Wong says, hey, you beat me, Alfonso. And then Alfonso follows up with, so does Matt Devine. I don't know if you know who Matt Devine is.
Sure, yeah, he does one of the Padre podcasts too.
Yeah. So tell me what you think. I mean, what do you think of some of this young podcast talent here, like Matt Devine? And yeah, you're always keeping it real. That's kind of been your thing. Well,
these are the topics. These are my opinions about the topics. Hope you have a reaction to my opinions about the topics. That's the way I do it. I produce a volume of information every day on my website and obviously on these podcasts. And even when I do the Saturday sports package on KUSI, it's really different. It is not your typical TV sportscast. So, John, I get up at 4:15 on Saturday. I will call you when I get up to make sure you're up and have a cup of coffee so you can watch what I do on KUSI, because we do something really different. But, everybody, there's so much, I call it noise. There's so much noise out there. Everybody I know in broadcasting is doing podcasts from one form or fashion, including John Q. Fan and including ex-broadcasters like John Quintera and Darren Smith and some of these other guys. So everybody's got a different angle, but I hope people like what we're doing. We're in our fourth year and we're just kind of killing it on social media.
I'll give you credit. I mean, when you're on KUSI, because normally on a Saturday morning news program, you don't expect a world-class sports segment. It's usually somebody that isn't necessarily a sports fan that just kind of gives some cue cards to read. You do a great job, but I know you're out there on the road with all the drunks at 4:15 in the morning, and you've been hit once and almost hit again. Stay safe out there, Lee.
Yeah, it's tough. I've encountered some really bad auto accident issues on the way to work on Saturday morning. Okay, John, let's move on.
Okay, let's go to our friend John. Hey, the most the Padres will get from Miller is right here and now. If they wait until after the season, there isn't much of an incentive. But the question I have is AJ going to be allowed to make a deal at this point? I've got a feeling his resume is going to be updated on LinkedIn real soon.
Well, at the end of the day, we're led to believe the ownership will be approved sometime in early August, right after the trade deadline maybe. And they come in the front door. And when the Feliciano ownership group comes in the front door, then we find out whether they're willing to take on more salary, whether they're willing just to ride this out and evaluate the offseason. And then when they evaluate it, are they going to stay with A.J. Preller, even though he got a contract extension, or are they going to bring in their own man? Remember this, the Felicianos are inheriting an enormous amount of debt as part of the $3.9 billion purchase price. In addition, they're inheriting not only big payroll, John, they're inheriting luxury tax. And every time you acquire a player, since they're already over the luxury tax threshold, you're not only getting the player, but you're paying 100% tax on this player's salary. So if you get somebody for $17 million, that's $17 million tax on top of the $17 million salary. So this thing, it really adds up. So at this point, A.J. Preller is responsible for the success of Padre baseball, especially over the last 5 years. But he's also responsible for the corner the franchise is painted in financially right now and the debt load that the Felicianos have to hire, because he's the one that authorized all these contracts to all these people. And he's the one that paid all these draft picks and these international players and then traded them all away. It's a very complicated situation. So I don't know whether or not AJ's job is safe. We'll find out after the group is approved and takes over and actually moves into Petco Park's offices in early August. And then we'll see what the offseason evaluation is going to be like beginning October 1st if the Padres don't make the playoffs.
Now, help me out on this. Remember when A.J. Preller rolled into town and they made the deal like originally for Matt Kemp, and they got James Shields that year, which they later flipped for Tatis. But it seemed that like the deals that were made from 2015 through maybe about really until Peter Seidler's death, how much of that was really AJ and all his decision, or was it Peter Seidler as a minority or a majority owner that was pushing for this, or even Mike D back in the day when he was president? Were they the ones that were being aggressive, and maybe AJ Preller was more conservative? Do you get a sense of who was in control making those decisions on those deals?
Oh, I'm sure it was all Preller's doing, with the approval on the mega contracts from Peter Seidler. You know, I was told that Seidler's the one that pushed for the Machado contract, which was an unbelievable length. And then he approved and said, let's go get Bogaerts. And then obviously he had to sign off on some of the other contracts, the Tatis 14-year deal and all that. So Peter approved all that. But every other baseball deal is AJ doing AJ's type business, which is paying volumes of money for draft picks to get them signed, but none of them ever hardly got here because he kept trading them away. Now that's his former currency. You know, the Dodgers' currency is dollars. AJ's currency is every blue chip prospect he's had. I mean, we're 11 years in on the mission with AJ Preller, and he's got 2 of his prospects are here, Morion and Campusano. Oh, well, Jackson Merrill. Tatis does not count because he came from the White Sox. So that's 3 actively involved, fairly successful Padre players in 11 years, John.
No, I mean, Tatis counts.
No, he doesn't. He came from the White Sox.
Yeah, but I mean, Tatis was cherry-picked from the White Sox back when he was like not even playing rookie ball. He was like still in the camps. So it's almost like a draft. I mean, to identify that talent and get him in that James Shields deal. When, you know, Ron Fowler that was upset with James Shields and wanted to get rid of him and that whole thing. So I don't know. I mean, what would you have wanted AJ Preller to have a completely different strategy? I mean, would you have preferred that we had kept all of that young talent, but then you would have had like bottlenecks? You would have had, 6 shortstops. You wouldn't have, who would you have prioritized? It's easy to be an armchair quarterback and look back at these deals and want to undo them, but well, with some exceptions, most every deal, people were generally excited about it. You know, the Bogaerts deal, there was a lot of questions about that, but for the most part, San Diego embraced Manny. They embraced the statute contract for Tatis. When AJ went and got Blake Snell and Yu Darvish, the fans were all excited. So a lot of these deals, I think, are just a little bit of sour grapes and bad luck because the deals haven't turned out the way that everyone thought.
End of the day, you kept spending and spending, and you kept making more deals to make up for the other deals that didn't pan out. And at the end of the day, now we're cordoned off into a corner with massive contracts you cannot trade, no farm system because virtually all those players are gone too, and no hope of being a World Series team. And that was the agenda, to build it and become something really special, and we're not. So I think you have to look back. Were we excited about Soto? I understood why he did it. We're excited about Machado, sure. But I would have given Machado a 5-year state-of-the-art contract. I would not have given him 10 years. I would not have given Bogaerts that long extended contract. I would have given him 5 years at top money because he was a top player when he was leaving the Red Sox at that point in time. So it's just they're in such a tough set of corner now, just because of all these transactions, all these deals that have not worked out.
Machado did have essentially a 5-year deal because he was able to opt out. But the Padres decided to re-up with Machado. So, and that was all about Peter Seidler. I just remember that photo of Seidler and Machado, pre-game there, like behind the batting cage, and Manny's got his arm around Peter Seidler, and that's when they were kind of having that wooing period before they signed that second deal for him. So, the Bogaerts deal is clearly the worst of them all. The Tatis deal is going to turn out to be a good one. I think the Jackson Merrill deal is going to be a good one. The Manny deal is extended, But, Manny is coming alive again. It's just things like the Musgrove deal was one that has been a real tank job, and it's because he's been hurt so much. And that's not AJ's fault, So I think there's more bad luck here going on than anything. But the one classic terrible decision was the Xander Bogaerts deal. It was unnecessary. We had 23 shortstops. We didn't need another one.
Well, if we sat down over a couple of beers and we started to go through all the box scores in baseball, John, of all the players that A.J. Preller has traded away, would drink the bar dry and would be there for hours upon hours making lists of transactions in which other guys or other places are playing pretty well. And you and I have not gone to a World Series game yet.
No. I mean, the scoreboard doesn't lie. Okay, let's switch it up here. Let's talk some hockey with Richard. Hey, should I put my Gordie Howe jersey away? The Red Wings have been poorly run for the last several years. The Angels can't believe how bad the Red Wings have been. Any hope for Detroit?
Drafts recently haven't been very good. Now, maybe we were spoiled. For those who are hockey fans, Detroit had a general manager by the name of Jim Devellano. Devellano is the one that really had the keys to open the kingdom. All those great European players came, and they had a really good run. Their drafts recently haven't been very good. Yzerman has been removed. They still have not solved the Dylan Larkin unhappiness situation. Interesting rumor in Detroit, they are talking about possibly Brendan Shanahan coming in. And, of course, he was a legendary player, but he's not had a great history as a general manager. He was up in Toronto and wound up getting fired, too. So I'll be intrigued to see what Detroit does. But, once your talent base goes away, goes down, guys get old, guys get hurt, guys retire, and then the draft picks you try to replace them with don't pan out, you're in a world of hurt. So that's where the Red Wings are right now.
Now, if you're a Detroit sports fan, which team do you hold closest to your heart? Is it the Red Wings?
They had a good run.
But I mean, as opposed to the Tigers or the Lions or the Pistons or even Michigan State?
No, Michigan's aura has been exceptional for decades upon decades, although that's a little bit stained right now with the end of the Harbaugh era, the mess with Sharon Moore, and the decision to remove Ward Manuel as the athletic director. But Michigan football is a separate entity. The Tigers have had good years, but they treat themselves as a small market. The Pistons had really bad years, but have been building. But that, the bad boy era, that's a long time ago. Red Wings have had great years in the Gordie Howe era, then obviously had some really good years with the Euros that Devellano brought on board. Lions have been down, but the Lions have bounced back. Now they got ripped by injuries the last 2 years. It's just not quite the same Detroit Lions team. So I think Michigan, more than anything else, has been a model of consistency and excellence more than any of the other pro franchises over a long, long period of time.
I agree with you, but I think Red Wing fan seems that they're committed. They drink the Kool-Aid. So, okay, let's go here's a new name, Swung at Ball 4. Hey, so is Hacksaw a Padre fan?
Hacksaw is a sports fan. Hacksaw covers everything. I really enjoy it. I enjoy following it, the transactions, trying to understand the rationale of why you did what you did, whether that's Dodger baseball, that's Padre baseball, whether that's Rams or Chargers football, whether that's all things Lakers, Clippers, whether, it's whatever the sport is, I kind of cover it. Do I want to see him do well? Yeah, in the community, I really do want to see him do well. I watch every Padres game on TV because that's who I am. But that does not stop me from having an opinion, writing columns about it, and I write a lot of columns about the Padres, the Dodgers, some columns about the Angels. I cover it all. So at the end of the day, Hacksaw is a sports fan. Do I like certain teams? Yeah, I guess I probably do over the course of my life. But I cover it differently now than I covered it before when I was the voice of the Chargers. And, before that, voice of the Seahawks and voice of Arizona State. It's just, I live in a different world now. I don't know, John, does that make any sense?
It does. I mean, I'll just tell you, just from hanging out with you, you're not a homer for any team at all. It's just interesting because you know so many people in sports, especially the local teams. So a lot of times when you're talking about the Padres and how heavy you are in your criticism of the team, I can tell sometimes you hold back a little bit because you know that people in the Padres organization, whether they're players or people in the front office, are listening to what you have to say. So I think there's a little bit of that. But the classic thing is in all the social media posts that we do for you, Dodger fan and Padre fan are always fighting over who Hacksaw is a fan of. He's a fan of our team. No, he's a fan of your team. And, no, he hates the Dodgers. No, he loves the Dodgers. The same thing here. But in my opinion, I know that you root for your Ohio, the Bobcats?
Yep.
And I know that you have a soft spot in your heart for the Indians, even though they're the Guardians now. But for the most part, you call it straight. You have clung to the Chargers probably a little more so than I think you should, but at least that's the brand that a lot of people, kind of connect you to.
Okay. I'm a sports fan. Nothing wrong with that. No, I mean, if I was here just homering every day, where's the credibility in that? So, and again, I have much more knowledge and access to information and networking with the whole world. So, there's nothing wrong with being a sports fan.
Okay, let's keep going. More Padre talk. This is from a new guy, Steve Guthrie. Hey, AJ killed this Padre team, sold his soul for rock and roll, as well as the entire minor league Padres teams.
Boy, people got upset. I wrote a column about a week ago about maybe what the Padres could do, should do, had to do. And I put kind of it wasn't meant as a snide remark, because when I was writing it, I thought, no, this fits. John, you might recall this. You read the column because you posted it. I think I wrote something to the effect, A.J. Preller, once known as a rock star GM, maybe was a one-hit wonder. Ooh, I get some response to that one.
Well, I mean, just think about Padre history and the GMs we had. The only really good GM that I hold in high esteem is Kevin Towers, right?
Yes.
I mean, for the most part, all the other general managers were doing the bidding of the owner with the limited budget, and some of them were a little bit mealy-mouthed, and some of them did go on and have success in Chicago or Boston or elsewhere. But for the most part, A.J. Preller being here was a breath of fresh air, in terms of a guy that wanted to go all in, a guy that wanted to take risks, a guy that was willing to, put his head out there and make a gamble. Because if the Padres were never going to be the Dodgers or the Yankees, I mean, so they had to do something different. And A.J. Preller has done that. Granted, A.J. Preller isn't the fault that the Padres went, 24 consecutive innings to the Dodgers and didn't score a run. I mean, there's a lot of things he gets blamed for, and he should be, because he's where he is, and that's part of being the general manager. But I don't know. I compare him to all the other history. I mean, the fire sale, the Tom Werner era. Now that's crap general management right there. When you're dumping Fred McGriff, and Gary Sheffield, and I don't care if you got Trevor Hoffman back. That was a disaster. The Padres are at least relevant on the MLB stage right now. But
no, I agree, and I think the history book were right. Probably the three most influential general managers in this franchise are obviously Trader Jack McKeon. He had Ray Kroc's money behind him, and then obviously what Kevin Towers did through a lot of different ownership scenarios, and then what Preller's creative genius has delivered. And he's so bold and has no fear. But the problem is the credit card bill just seems to keep coming due, and we seem to be going farther away from what we had hoped it would be. That's where I am today. Okay, move on.
Okay, let's go here to Big John Silva. I'm sick of Wandy Peralta.
He's pitched well for chunks of time, large chunks of time this season. End of the day, he's a setup guy, and that's it. He does have a rubber arm. John, he throws a lot of innings. He's pitched an awful lot. He really had a bad outing yesterday in Atlanta. But I think in the bigger scorecard, he's pitched pretty well virtually the whole season. And I think he's been trustworthy and fairly reliable. But, pitching can be so iffy. Yuki Matsui was lost the second half of last season. Matsui has had himself a really good season this year. Jason Adam, in flourishes of time, has been very dominant, but he has been nicked up last year, and now he's nicked up again this year. So pitching is so hard. There's no perfection, really, to pitching at all, and the injury factor just weighs into this equation a lot.
Before, I think it was yesterday's game, Wandy Peralta had a 2.32 ERA. And I was like, how is that even possible? Because he gives up a lot of hits and a lot of runs. I mean, he must just give up a lot of inherited runners. Peralta is definitely another guy that's on the trade block. And, AJ signed him to a 4-year deal. That's probably another mistake that AJ Preller made. And I think this is the 4th year of his deal. So hopefully he can parlay, Wandy into a new opportunity. But, yeah, the bullpen right now is a disaster.
Well, I think a piece of that equation is overuse. Why? How many of these starters are going 3 innings and are in trouble the whole time that they're out there, outside of Michael King's grit? And King is just a bulldog out there. And, he started yesterday's game. He walked 3 batters in the first 3 guys he faced. I thought, this is going to be catastrophic. And he just grinded his way through that. But he had nothing to show for it. And Buehler has had some bad innings, walks, does give up home runs, but Buehler's giving you more good innings than he's giving you bad innings. But beyond that, there's nothing in this rotation that you can trust. No.
I mean, King, it's interesting. This year he's had his struggles, but, he had that problem with, I don't know, it was a nerve in his neck or his shoulder, but last night's game, the first inning, he just couldn't find his release point. His mechanics weren't right, and the ball was not just missing the zone. It was wildly missing the zone, but he figured it out at least. But by that point, he'd already given up a run. King deserved to win that game. He went either 6 innings or 7 innings and gave up only 1 run. So, that's great.
Atlanta was 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position while King was pitching. 1 for 12. He kept working his way out of hot water. But that's the only trustworthy starter that you can believe can win you a game right now in this rotation. Okay, carry on.
Okay, here we go. This is from Ismaid. Raiders and Chargers haven't won nothing. At least the Raiders have 3 Super Bowls, unlike the San Diego Chargers.
It's great to live in the past, isn't it? 1970s are a long time ago, pal. But that, Raiders right now, the worst franchise in the National Football League with Mark Davis as their owner. Something to be said for getting hand-me-downs and screwing it all up. And once you get bad, it's awful tough to bring it back. Chargers got to the Super Bowl one time and got beat. Owner, moved the franchise and left a lot of ill will behind and has not really accomplished very much up in L.A., especially what the Rams have become under the Kroenke ownership, first in St. Louis, and what they've done so far. So, okay, Raider fan wants to throw rocks at Charger fans. That's okay, but we're here to talk about it. We will talk about it.
The old dusty dented trophy. I just remember it was Super Bowl 10. And that was when the Raiders finally got over the Steelers in the AFC playoffs, and they went and played the Vikings. And who was that? There was a defensive back that had that pick 6. Who was that? He ended up in the Hall of Fame, I think, too.
For the Raiders or the Vikes?
Yeah. For who?
The Raiders or the Vikes?
The Raiders. He was like a safety. What was his name? I can't remember his name, but he had a hell of a game. But then they won the 2 other Super Bowls with Jim Plunkett back then. But I think by then they were the LA Raiders. But yeah, the Raiders, the NFL is a lot more fun when you've got the dark side that's out there playing ball. I like that. Okay, let's keep on going down the list here, and we'll go to here's Red Eye Surfing. Canning is garbage. Drop him immediately.
Well, he's just not the pitcher he was with the Mets before he had the Achilles injury. And he was a back-end starter when he was with the Angels, but he's not even that now. He's given up so many home runs. So I'm not going to hammer these guys that are coming back from injuries because that'd be really unfair. But at the end of the day, you're either good enough to do it or you're not good enough to do it. And maybe we wake up shortly and he'll be DFA'd out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I was hopeful for him, and when he was in camp, he said he looked good, but the problem, of course, was his knee, not his arm. But he'll looks like he has good stuff, and then just give up bombs, and like he did today. I think Ozzie Albies took him out, and there was, and then the catcher took him out. So Canning is not the guy, we'll wish him well, but yeah, he's not going to win us a trophy, that's for sure.
Okay.
Hey, here's another comment. This is from Sports Fan. This is a good one. Hey, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton was looking at San Diego State football schedule on the Mountain West Conference. And San Diego State's not in the Mountain West League. And I look it up on Chat AI, and San Diego State is in the Pac-12. I like to know, how do I watch San Diego State football?
Well, the new Pac-12, which is debuting, by the way, San Diego State Aztec Football Media Day is tomorrow, and I will be there covering it. But they're going to be on CBS. They're going to be on Fox 1, etc. So you'll be able to see, I think, virtually all but maybe one of their games. I think the Portland State non-conference opener is the only one that won't be on TV. But I'll be intrigued to see this. The Pac-12 is not what the Pac-12 used to be. So anybody that's waving a Pac-12 banner and saying we're in big time, no, this is Mountain West 2.0. Does not mean they can't be good, because the only one that survived is Oregon State, Washington State, and they have not been really great in football in the last couple of years. So this becomes a wide open race. So you got San Diego State's great success, Boise State's great success coming into the conference. So it'll be fascinating to see who becomes the leader of the new Pac-12. But to me, the Pac-12 kind of resembles Mountain West 2.0.
Well, from a TV perspective, it'll be easier to get them, because at least we don't have to depend on the Mountain Network. That's kind of a crap platform compared to a lot of other league, broadcast systems. But I don't know. I'm encouraged. I think this isn't a Power 4 conference, but it is an upgrade. It's Mountain West 2.0. It's a step up. Let's see how it goes. And like I said, I think we're going to see a lot more games on a lot more normal channels.
Yeah, very much so. And by the time I get back to you on Monday, we'll talk some more Aztec football, because I say their Aztec Football Media Day is tomorrow. Get this, the new Pac-12, John, not holding a football conference media day.
What?
What's wrong with that? Why would you not want to promote the whole conference, bring everybody in, even though there's no LA member? And I mean, to me, it's just really strange.
Well, the media is kind of like your de facto PR team.
Yes.
The media, you want to get the media on your side to promote your program, to not only get butts in the seat, but also to have more exposure for your program to help with the recruiting. So why? I mean, this is something dumb that the Mountain West wouldn't do. Now the Pac-12 isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, come
on,
media,
man. No media day. I just explain that one to me, please. Okay.
No, there's nothing to explain there. Okay, where was another comment here? People getting up on our case because we were making Trump comments too. I'm trying to find that one here, and it's right here from Sarver Group. Another pathetic Trump jab. Geez, weak. Well, he did say that the Kansas City Chiefs were in the state of Kansas.
Okay. Did you see he got photoshopped out of the World Cup picture? Team Spain, when they got the trophy, was on the podium, and they were about to take this big team photo, and he was standing off on the side like, I need to be here. And I was told he was really upset he was not allowed to speak in the stadium before the trophy presentation. So anyhow, FIFA put out the final Team Spain team photo with them holding the trophy right at midfield, and they photoshopped out Trump. Just amazing. And, Infantino was trying to drag him off the podium so they could take the team picture, and Trump was just standing there. Yeah, end of the day, I love the World Cup, the creme de la creme of the great talent, the players, the games, the passion, the fans were fun. but I'm handing red cards to Infantino and red cards to Trump for who they are, what they represent, how they acted.
Yeah, I mean, and then you're also, calling Argentina cheats, but it was a great tournament. And yeah, of course, Trump's going to want to get in on the picture, on the photo op. There's a lot of memes going around of Trump sort of photo bombing, like, the Last Supper painting of, by Da Vinci and things like that. It's just kind of fun how that's taken a life of its own. But, it's a shame that when sports gets politicized, right? We don't necessarily like that, but it seems to be happening more and more often. And I like the fact that you'll speak out to it. You don't dwell on it. You move through it quickly, but you don't hold back. And I think that's good.
When it crosses the intersection of sports, it's in my neighborhood. And because I'm a sports fan, I'm going to comment on it. Hey, listen, we hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We did cover an awful lot of topics on the table. Don't forget the baseball trading deadline is coming up on August 3rd. We'll have a lot to comment again about that next week. And NFL training camps are opening. NFL notebook stuff every Monday and every Thursday going forward. Podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers with 8 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they've got materials, you want ideas, they can be your best friend, your consultant. Go to dixieline.com to see all the things they have to offer. John, take a deep breath because there's going to be a volume of NFL information coming across the table. And of course, we'll continue to track baseball, wild card playoff race, and the trade deadline. And then we still got King James and his decision to come too. So we got always a lot to cover. Have a good weekend.
Oh, I will. We got the NFL Hall of Fame game coming up here pretty soon. Hey, when is week 0 for college football?
Last week of August.
Okay, so that's like a month away, man. Football is like right around the corner.
There's always something to cover and to comment on, and we do. John, have a great sports weekend. And you, thanks for being part of this podcast. Have yourself a great sports weekend. Thanks for joining us again on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.